Dear students, welcome to massive open online course on public financial administration. In the previous episodes, you have learnt about various topics in public financial administration such as taxation, financing, fiscal policy, budgeting, Niti Aayog, Finance Commission and other topics. And in the year 2020, the Government of India has released or introduced a national education policy called NEP 2020. It has been followed or implemented at various states gradually. In this episode, we will discuss what are the various financing of education as per the recommendations of the NEP 2020. Okay, let us delve into it. So, that topic financing of education in the light of NEP 2020, and in this episode we are going to discuss identify the major features of NEP 2020 at school and higher education institution level, and then we will analyze the public expenditure on education in India and other countries also. We will discuss the critical components of education, what are the various components of education as per NEP 2020, and we will understand the financial implications of NEP. So, what are the various suggestions and how to enact them. So, what are the financial implications of NEP, and we will explain different funding patterns for research, how to fund research, that also that we shall discuss, and we shall differentiate various strategies for financing education. So, in total we will discuss what is NEP and how to finance education in the purview of NEP 2020. So, okay, let us start. So, NEP 2020, it is very comprehensive, that means it is a very elaborate policy and it outlines vision, mission and roadmap. So, it is giving very clear vision what to do and mission how to do and the roadmap where to go. So, these three questions, what to do, how to do and where to go. So, all that is given in the NEP 2020, and it is the first major reform over 3 decades. The previous education policy was released in 1986 and then in 1992 the program of action that was also released. So, after 1992 there was no education policy. So, we can say within a time span of 3 decades that it has come. So, at a correct time where India is aiming to become the knowledge superpower, and it covers all the stages pre school to higher education. So, the pre school and the secondary school and higher education. So, all the domains they are covered by the NEP. And what is the basic tenets of NEP? Universal access, universal, that means education to all the people irrespective of their age, gender or any other rural urban disparity or the handicapped or any other kind of disadvantaged people, all should be given education. So, you can imagine what a mammoth task it will be. So, universal access, equity, equal education as per our constitution, equality is one of the basic tenets of constitution. So, the equity and quality, it should be of very high quality, otherwise what will happen? You are providing education, but without any quality it has no meaning at all. And multidisciplinary education, not in a single discipline. For example, I may be from physics background or somebody else from mathematics, but actually it talks about multidisciplinary. That means a graduate coming from a particular stream, he should have some idea about his own subject, arts, the humanities and some other field also. That means it is not a single discipline, it is multidiscipline. And vocational education, vocation means the hands on experience, the industrial experience or the skill based courses are called vocational education. Research, innovation, we have to invent. The number of patents or the innovations are very less in India, and particularly that IPR, that intellectual property rights, and they are coming under innovation. We have to enhance innovation. Autonomy, all the institutions are autonomous. That means they have their own governance, their own culture, their own curriculum, and so that is called the autonomy or autonomous institutions. And then comes the accountability. So, when the autonomy comes, automatically the accountability is also coming, and therefore, every institution, every stakeholder is accountable to whom? To the public. So, these are the basic tenets of the NEP, and we are going to briefly discuss about them, and then we will discuss how to finance. And the key features, it is holistic. Holistic means it will give equal importance for the cognitive, affective. Cognitive means the brain, affective the heart, psychomotor the hand. So, head, heart, hand, that is called the holistic education. And multidisciplinary, multidisciplinary is integrating all the domains, the sciences, arts, humanities, etc. And it promotes creativity, critical thinking and problem solving. So, these are the three basic qualities that every human being should have. We should think critically, we should be efficient in problem solving, because many problems are arising every day that we have to solve. And then the creativity, creativity is a basic quality, because creativity cannot be taught in any class, it has to be imbibed by the work culture or the education, it has to be imbibed. And early childhood care and education, so that is up to age 8, that means it is taking the children from the age 3 and up to age 8, that is called the early childhood care and education. And the skill based curriculum, because every student from class 6 onwards, they have to take up a skill, and when they are passing out or graduated at the 10th standard or 12th standard, they are at least knowing or expert in a particular skill. So, that is the main points of this NEP. And then the use of technology, because nowadays that we are living in a technology era, the 21st century is a technological era, and so the technology should be integrated. It is not using technology, you have to integrate technology in each and every aspect of your life or your education, that is called the technology integration, teaching, learning, assessment and governance. And then flexibility, and so for flexibility you can choose your own topics and you can enter or exit at any point of time. You can save your credit in the academic bank of credit. And the teacher training and professional development, the teachers are the very basic or fundamental for the education system, and so the economy or the growth of a country depends upon the teachers, and therefore, the teaching or the teachers are very very essential. So, the teacher development and higher education reforms. So, it has introduced 4-year UG, and so that is another important innovation or the introduction of the 4-year UG program, and multilingualism, the teaching up to class 5th, that is in the mother tongue. At the same time, they give equal importance for other languages also, that is called the multilingualism. It is not mono, it is multi, and equity and inclusion. So, these are the basic characteristics of NEP, and why we have to discuss all that. Until otherwise that we understand what are the basic requirements or suggestions of NEP, we cannot think of how to finance it. And the assessment reforms, so the examination reforms, they are also suggested by the NEP, and research and innovation, autonomy and internationalization. That means the world is a big village, that means there should be mobility between the countries. So, people should go from here to there. At present what happens, our students are going to foreign countries, but very less people are coming from foreign to India for learning. So, that should be changed by the NEP, so that people will go from here to there. Our universities will go to foreign countries, their universities will come here, and therefore, it is a bilateral, and therefore, that is called the internationalization. And this is the pattern, the 10 plus 2, that is replaced by 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So, that is a pattern, and so the diagram shows the foundation and the preliminary or preparatory, middle and secondary. So, these are the various what to tell stages in the education system, and each one they have their own significance. NEP 2020 purview, so it envisions substantial increase in the public investment, because all these characteristics we have seen, and that means they need a lot of finance also. So, NEP is suggesting the public financing of education should be increased, and the center and states to increase the public investment by 6% of the GDP. GDP means gross domestic product, and this is not a new thing. All the previous education policy, NEP 1968, NEP 1986 and the program of action 1992, all of them have already advocated for 6% of the GDP for education, and then only actually education is not an expenditure, it is an investment, and therefore, at least you have to invest 6% of the GDP, then only the education will be sustainable, and therefore, the economy also. And it is extremely critical for achieving quality and equity, and it is needed for the future socio economic, cultural, intellectual and the technological progress of a country. So, these are the purview of the public expenditure. The thrust area, long term thrust area, long term means at least 5 years and above, that is called long term. Short term means 1 year or less. Universal early childhood care and education, already we have seen the early childhood care and education means from age 3 to 8. So, it is universal, that means all the children in that age group should be given education. And the foundational literacy and numeracy, the school complexes or clusters, the NEP is introducing school complex. What is a school complex? Because various vocational streams are going to be introduced, a single school cannot afford all the facilities, and therefore, in a particular block, for example, in the in a particular region, some around some 10 to 20 schools are there, all of them are called the school complex or the school cluster. Each one will contribute certain vocational education or certain facility, and therefore, that is called a school complex. And the food and nutrition, already the midday meal that is existing in many states, and nowadays the breakfast is also provided in various states, and therefore, that is very important that you cannot stop also, because the child when it is coming to school, it should have filled its stomach. If there is nothing in the stomach, then naturally whatever good education, quality education that you are providing, that will be a waste of time, and therefore, the food and nutrition, that is very essential. And the teachers and staff, a large number of teachers are needed from pre-primary to university, and the non-teaching staff, and then the continual professional development, because as the world is progressing, the teachers also should progress themselves, and so various programs are to be given to the teachers, okay? Because an old dog cannot be taught new techniques, like that. If people are getting old, naturally that they have to be given new techniques also, otherwise what will happen, that education may not be that much fruitful. And the teachers revamping colleges and university, because all the colleges are to be given the autonomy, and universities are to be bifurcated into research university and teaching university, and then the research, innovation, entrepreneurship and incubation, all these are the basic characteristics of the NEP 20. And now, the digital empowerment, the socio-economically disadvantaged group. What is it actually? SCDG. All the people, they are not equal. Some people are disadvantaged by what? By geography, rural or urban, by the wealth, rich or poor, by gender, male or female, or by caste, upper caste or lower caste, or religion, or by the inclusivity, that means normal children or the special children. So, like that there are so many partialities or that is differences are there among the children, and those who are at the lower level, they are called the socio economically disadvantaged group. If we are not caring for them, naturally they are left out in the society, and so they will be useless for the society, they cannot contribute to the society. So, in a long run, it is a waste of manpower or waste of human capital. So, they also should be included, and therefore, NEP is giving much more importance for the inclusivity. And then the vocational and skill development, as already we have discussed. And then what are the primary funding needs of education system? So, education system, what does it need? What are the needs? First of all, the Higher Education Grants Council. So, the Higher Education Grants Council, or presently it is UGC. UGC is giving some funds, and it is the base funding only. So, it cannot give all the funding, only the base funding that it can give, and it is giving the financial support for running the university. That means, it can provide the basic infrastructure only that it can provide, and the research funding from National Research Foundation. So, a meager amount that universities are getting from the research funding, and these are the major funding mechanism for the higher education system. And the main sources already we have seen, and tuition and other fees. So, they are collecting the fees from the children, and the tuition fees, that is a meager amount, that will not be a large amount. And the sponsored research project, suppose if you are taking a research project, they will give some amount, but that should be used only for research. At the same time, all the research projects may not be helpful for the university also. Many times, suppose if taking up some research, that is essential for the higher education institution, but at the same time financially that they are not helping us, or they are not that much fruitful. And endowment and commercial activity, suppose leasing or renting some school premises or college premises, and some endowment, some in the name of the alumni or some rich people, or philanthropy, and they may give some endowment, and rest of the cost is borne by the students through the tuition fee. In case of the government system, the government is taking the load of all the other expenditure. In the case of the private schools or institution, it all is on the charged from the students as a tuition fee only, and therefore, the education becomes very costly, and only the rich people can afford such a costly education. So, all the marginalized people, they are left over in the system, and so the NEP is insisting to give education for all the people, and so we need a large amount of financing. Now, come to the public expenditure, how much we are spending every year. So, the NPA 1968, NPE 86, PAO 92, all are reiterating the public expenditure at least 6% of the GDP, but to your surprise, hardly in the year 2021 to 22, it is 4.64% only. So, 1921-22, after the NEP also, the national funding for education is hardly 4.64% only. It is hardly 10%. Imagine the number of children in the school and university, the number of students, that may be in crores, but hardly 10% of the expenditure we are spending for education, and it is far less in comparison with the developed and developing countries. Now, let us see the diagram. It is a diagram. You see, in 2012 it was around 4, in 2013 unusually there was a decrease in the financing pattern, it was around some 3 point something, and gradually it is increasing. In 2019 it is some number, but 20 again it is decreasing, and 21 it is increasing, it is something around 4.64. That means, in the last decade hardly we have reached 4.64, but what it is suggested at least 6%. So, now you can understand the difference or the what to tell, the lacunae in the education system. Now, let us compare how the foreign countries or the western countries are spending. See, it is a comparative diagram, and here in the diagram you can see the green, that is Denmark. Denmark is spending around some 8%, you see 8%, India 4.6, and United States, United Kingdom all are in around some 6 or 5%, and Canada also, almost all the countries, the bottommost line you can see, that is of India, you can see it has never crossed 5, but the smaller countries like Denmark and Norway, they are called the Scandinavian countries, they are spending around 8% of the GDP. That is why The Scandinavian countries are having some of the best education, the Norway, Sweden, Finland, all are having the best education, 8% of their GDP, and India it is far less, around 4%. And so, the first principle or first suggestion of NEP is we have to increase the public expenditure. What are the hurdles? Suppose the government is releasing the fund, it will not reach the beneficiaries properly. So, what are the basic hurdles in that? First and foremost, even though low level funding, it is not spent timely in the proper manner. That means, time is very important. In this year I may need some finance, if it is coming in the next year, that may not be useful. So, in timely manner it is not reaching the beneficiary. Who is the beneficiary? The school or the block. That is the hurdle number 1. Number 2, hampers achievement of intended target. Suppose there is a target purpose, many times it is not used for the target purpose. Suppose I want to create a science lab, but instead if I am creating some other thing like a art and craft room or a ground, then it is not solving the purpose of the target. And then the efficiency, because it has to be efficiently used, otherwise what will happen? For the case where only 10 rupees to be spent, if I am spending 20 rupees, then naturally it is not efficient one, and therefore, the efficiency, timeliness and the achievement of the target. So, these are the major hurdles in the funding of education. And the financial governance and management should focus on, it should be smooth. That means, automatically today if the central government is releasing the fund, within a short time or smoothly it has to come flow, timely, appropriate flow of funds and their usage with probity. Probity means honesty or integrity, because the corruption or some other inefficiencies or the activities, so they should not happen. And the administrative process suitably amended and streamlined, and the dispersal mechanism should not leave unspent amount, because it is one of the major hurdle, because sometimes even the stakeholders are getting the money, but from their side because of the lethargy or the inefficiency, they are not spent properly and it is returned back to the government. And so, there should not be any unspent amount, that is very important. And these are the funding mechanism suggested by NEP. Number 1, GFR, that means the general finance rules, because the government has devised a mechanism, general finance rule, and what NEP is telling, we have to impose this finance rule for the funding of education also. And PFMS, that means public financial management system, that means public finance management. So, there is a system called PFMS. Previously they were used for the projects and other university related activities. Nowadays all the institution, whether it is a school or college, whatsoever it may be, all have to be coming under PFMS. The third one, just in time, when the finance is needed, at that time money will be given, neither before nor after, that is called just in time. Efficient use of government resources, performance based funding. Actually it is a new concept. What is it? Suppose I am giving some amount to some institution, and for example 1 year or 5 years something. So, in that time how they are spending, the performance is analyzed, and accordingly in the next cycle the funding will be given. So, the performance in one term is deciding how much funding should be given in the next term, that is called the performance based funding, and avoiding parking of funds. What is parking? Suppose when the flow of funds intermittently, that it should not be parked from center to state, state to district, district to block, block to school. So, in all the stages there should be no blockage. So, the fund has to flow. So, that is the meaning of avoiding of parking of funds. So, these are the suggestions given by the NEP. Thank you. Have a nice time.